Video games aren't meant to be one-offs. While there are some exceptions to the rule, when it comes to big AAA releases, developers and publishers are always looking to milk just about every new hot property for all it's worth. As a result, rarely is a video game series allowed to go out on a high. Even when their supposed quote-unquote finales hit shelves, companies always think up of another reason to bring these popular heroes back into the limelight. Unfortunately for players though, this means that once-loved franchises can end up with sequels nobody wanted. I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are 6 video game sequels the world didn't need. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to stay notified. Ding, ding, done. Number 6. Gears of War Judgment. I mean, it sounds like a pretty obvious thing to say, but a series always loses its allure when the main story is over. Even worse than an unnecessary sequel, though, is a pointless spin-off. Rarely ever setting alight the sales charts, these stopgap releases are supposedly to keep players interested in a franchise while a numbered entry is still in development. With that in mind, you have to wonder just what Microsoft expected from Gears of War Judgment. While it wasn't a bad title, it was more of the same cover shooting that players had come to expect from a Gears game, repeating a formula that had already started to feel stale by the third entry in the series. Because it barely pushed the property forward, Judgment felt like a last-ditch cash-in on a once bankable franchise. Number 5. Rock Band 4. After enjoying some well-earned time off, the world was seemingly ready to embrace music rhythm games again back in 2015. And with Guitar Hero and Rock Band both returning in the same few months span, it was actually quite exciting to ride the hype to see which of these two legendary rivals would come out on top. The answer was, though, neither of them would. However, while Guitar Hero Live at least tried hard to innovate, changing its entire aesthetic, controller, and core gameplay, Rock Band 4 was content to stay virtually exactly the same. While this in theory isn't a bad thing, with nothing new on the gameplay front and a bunch of songs that couldn't be accessed even if you already owned them on a previous console, you'd have been better off picking up a cheap version of the third game and its instruments rather than shelling out for Rock Band 4. Number 4. Crackdown 2. In 2018, who here remembers Crackdown 2? Although the original is still fondly remembered by Xbox fans, and the upcoming third game, if it ever gets released, will certainly reignite interest in the series, this first attempt at a follow-up was more an expansion pack rather than a fully fledged sequel. Taking place in the exact same city, although this time it was overrun by zombies because that had never been done right, the second game lost much of the personality and character that made the original so fresh and unique. Helmed by a new studio and pushed out the door with little fanfare, Crackdown 2 felt like a stopgap release for a bigger, better game that never came. Number 3. Resident Evil 5. Following up one of the most critically acclaimed and beloved video games of all time can't be easy, but anyone with even a tiny bit of common sense knows that you shouldn't just repeat the same formula again and hope people won't notice. Copying set pieces, borrowing story beats, and introducing barely any new monsters, Resident Evil 5 attempted to change as little as possible about the survival horror series, yet somehow managed to even mess that up. Although kept much the same, the game did introduce a new feature, a broken co-op system. A paint-by-numbers shooter would have been bad enough, but a paint-by-numbers shooter where you had to constantly babysit an erratic AI was just unforgivable. That said, Resident Evil 5's biggest sin was that its very existence led to the creation of Resident Evil 6, a truly abysmal game that managed to single-handedly send the entire franchise into self-destruct mode. Number 2. Duke Nukem Forever. Look, no one wants to see a game stuck in development hell, especially when the title in question is a new entry in a hugely popular series. It can be painful to wait years for a game that will seemingly never be finished. Come on, Rockstar, just give us Agent. Unfortunately though, on some occasions it probably would have been better if these releases stayed in development hell and as far away from our consoles as possible. Duke Nukem Forever was one of those games, a title that went through the hands of numerous developers, game engines, and publishers. The troubled creation of Forever made the likes of Final Fantasy XV and The Last Guardian look like efficient products in comparison. Of course, we all know now that we probably shouldn't have campaigned so hard to see Duke Nukem Forever, as the eventual release was an absolutely lifeless experience that managed to single-handedly suck all the joy out of this once iconic series. Number 1. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5. In the early 2000s, the Tony Hawk's games were the coolest shit in the world, and were exclusively to blame for my terrible dress sense over the next decade or so. However, after 4 solid games, the series was in need of a reinvention, and thus a more open and story-focused sub-franchise took its place in the mainstream. As Tony Hawk's Underground aimed for humor and spectacle over hardcore high scores, the franchise slowly moved into a more casual market, culminating in a peripheral-clad demise. However, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 was our savior, our second coming that seemed like an easy win for this once great set of games, attempting to return the franchise to its roots. Of course, bafflingly, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 turned out to be one of the biggest disasters of 2015, and instead of giving the franchise the shot of adrenaline it needed, it proved to be the final nail in the coffin for this once revered series. So that's our list. Let me know in the comments down below whether there are any video game sequels as unnecessary as this horrible lot, and while you're there, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and all that jazz, and head over to whatculture.com for even more fire content like this every single day. I've been Josh, and I'll see you soon.
Gosh, can you believe that person said that about that particular video on that entry? I sure can't. But you should like, share and subscribe below anyway. And also, the people who made this video, they're right here. Go follow them and give them some love. Also, there's more content, probably above my head. Check it out. Or don't. 50-50.